Okay, so Kevin Warsh, Trump's pick to run the Federal Reserve, just sat in front of Congress and couldn't answer whether his $100 million in secret investments are tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Couldn't answer. And then, and this is the kicker, he also couldn't bring himself to say that Donald Trump lost in 2020. The guy who's supposed to run independent monetary policy for the United States wouldn't confirm a fact that Congress already certified. This is Senator Warren going at him for 5 straight minutes. And every single answer is either I'll get back to you or let me tell you about something else.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Fed has been plagued by deeply disturbing ethics scandals in recent years involving at least 6 Fed officials. So it's critical that the next chair have no financial conflicts, none. You have more than $100 million in investments that you have refused to disclose to ethics officials and to the public. So let me ask, do the Juggernaut Fund or the THSDFS LLC invest in any companies affiliated with President Trump or his family, companies that have facilitated money laundering, Chinese-controlled companies, or financing vehicles established by Jeffrey Epstein?
Senator Warren, thank you. So let me first share a point of agreement with you. The Fed has 2 tools. One is its monetary policy, and the second is its credibility. And the scandals that you talked about, the ethics
Mr.
problems
Warsh,
you
I
talked
appreciate
about,
that, but I
went
have
to the
very
core of the
limited
credibility
time.
that has hurt the
Could
Fed.
you answer my question, please? I asked. You have $100 million in undisclosed assets. And what I'm asking is, are any of those with this outfit that invests in companies affiliated with President Trump or his family, companies that have facilitated money laundering, Chinese-controlled companies, or financing vehicles set up by Jeffrey Epstein? It's a yes or no question.
Senator, I have worked tirelessly with the ethics officials at the Office of Government
Yes,
Ethics.
and you have not
come to an ethics agreement
$100
with
million
them and have agreed, Senator, to sell all of my financial assets, including the Duquesne assets.
Are you refusing to tell us if you have investments, for example, in vehicles set up to advance Jeffrey Epstein? Is that what you're telling us? You just won't tell us?
Senator, what I'm telling you is that those assets that you represent at Juggernaut will be sold if I'm confirmed before I take office and sign the oath of office.
Let me follow up on that. Will you at least disclose how you plan to disclose and divest these secret assets? I'm sure you understand that the public might question your motives if, for example, billionaire Stanley Druckenmiller, who you honored in your opening statement, and who makes a living guessing what the Fed will do next, cuts you a massive check for $100 million as you take the oath of office to become the new Federal Reserve Chair.
Senator, as you know, it sounds like your fight might not be with me, but the Office of Government Ethics. I have come to full agreement with them and have agreed to divest all of those assets,
I'm asking you
especially
a very
those that you referenced
question,
before
Mr.
I take
Warsh,
the oath of office.
And that is, will you disclose how you divest those assets, or will you just collect a check for $100 million from someone whose whole business is betting on what the Fed will do?
As I said to the ethics officials at the Federal Reserve and the Office of Government Ethics,
they agreed, I'll take that as a no as well.
I would be redeeming my assets before I take office. So Donald
Trump has made clear that he does not want an independent Fed. In fact, he has said, and I quote, "Anybody that disagrees with me will never be Fed chairman." And he's made clear that you are his sock puppet, saying last week that interest rates will drop, quote, "when Kevin gets in." Yeah, I think they do. Not when economic conditions change, we'll get lower rates. Not when the economy needs it. Nope. He said, when my guy, Kevin Warsh, is in there, we'll get the interest rates that Donald Trump, wants. So independence takes courage. Let's check out your independence and your courage. We'll start easy. Mr. Warsh, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
We try to keep politics, if I'm confirmed, out of the Federal
I'm just
Reserve.
asking a factual question. I need to know, I need to measure your independence and your courage.
Senator, I believe that this body certified that election many years ago.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, did Donald Trump lose in 2020?
And I'm suggesting you in
I'm
2020, the
suggesting you
Fed
can't
made
answer
a
that.
huge inflation problem, and you certified the election.
So
We
let
need to
me
keep
ask you
politics
another
out of
question.
monetary policy.
In our
and
meeting, you
monetary
said
policy out
you
of
would
politics.
be independent because you're, quote, a tough guy. Those were your words, tough guy. And you will be able to stand up to President Trump. So let's try it again. Name one aspect of President Trump's economic agenda with which you disagree.
Well, Senator, the Federal Reserve in recent years has wandered outside of its remit, wandered into other
I'm
areas.
asking for something
That's
you
not something
disagree
I'm
with
prepared to
Donald
do.
Trump on.
If I'm
Just
confirmed,
one
the Federal
one
Reserve should stay in
economic
its
issue.
lane.
Just one little place where you disagree with Donald
Well, I
Trump.
do have a disagreement, actually, Senator, with the president. I think even this morning, he said that he thought I was out of central casting. I think central casting, I'd look older, grayer, and maybe show up here with a cigar of sorts.
Quite adorable. But you know, we need a Fed chair who is independent. That's the only way we preserve the independence of the Federal Reserve. If you can't answer these questions, you don't have the courage and you don't have the independence.
I agree
Thank
with you on
Mr.
independence, Senator.
All right, so let's talk about what you just watched. Because if something felt off, you're not crazy. A Federal Reserve nominee just refused, on camera, under oath, to answer whether any of his $100 million in hidden assets are connected to Jeffrey Epstein's financing vehicles. Not denied it. Refused to answer it. And his fallback was, I'll sell them before I take the oath. Okay, cool. But the question wasn't when. The question was what. And this is what reporters have been saying all week. Over $100 million in a holding company he won't fully disclose. Foreign entities, controversial financiers, the whole list. The Fed chair sets interest rates that move trillions of dollars, and we're supposed to trust that a guy who won't tell us what he owns is going to make those calls with a clean conscience. Come on. Then Warren brings up Stanley Druckenmiller. And this one you got to pay attention to. Druckenmiller is a billionaire investor whose entire job is betting on what the Fed is about to do. And Warsh named him by name in his opening statement as someone he admires. So Warren goes, hey, if Druckenmiller cuts you $100 million check the day you take the oath, you going to tell us? And Warsh says, talk to the ethics office. That's the answer. Talk to the ethics office. So here's what's actually happening on Wall Street right now. Billionaires are literally repositioning portfolios to bet on Warsh getting confirmed. They want rate cuts, they want them aggressive, and they want a guy in that chair who won't push back. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's the reporting. And the nominee can't even say how he's planning to unwind his own money. That's not a Fed chair. That's a wish list with a suit on. Now we get to the part where it stops being about money and starts being about courage. Warren asks him straight up, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Simple question. Factual question. Congress already certified it. And Warsh goes, we try to keep politics out of the Fed. Sir, that's not politics. That's the United States Senate certifying an election. You work there. You saw it happen. Just say yes. And this is the bigger picture. Trump has said out loud on the record, anyone who disagrees with me will never be Fed chairman. That's the test. That's the hiring criteria. Agree with me or you don't get the job. Global markets are watching this. They're pricing in the possibility that the Fed just becomes another branch of the White House. And when that firewall cracks, the entire credibility of the dollar cracks with it. That's not dramatic. That's just what the bond market does. Then Warren goes, okay, fine. Name one thing you disagree with Trump on. One thing. And Warsh just sits there. Dead air. And finally, he cracks a joke about how Trump said he looked like central casting, but he'd prefer to be older and grayer with a cigar. That's the disagreement. Cigars. Not tariffs, not rate policy, not firing Fed governors. Cigars. And that's why Warren asked the 2020 question. It's not a gotcha. It's a loyalty test. If you can't say the sky is blue when the president wants you to call it red, you cannot be trusted to raise interest rates when the president wants them cut. That's the whole job. That's the only job. And Warsh just told us on national television that he doesn't have it in him. So Here's the line. A guy with $100 million in secret assets who won't rule out Epstein ties, who won't say Trump lost in 2020, and whose only disagreement with the president is about cigars, is about to run the Federal Reserve. That's not independence. That's a sock puppet with a PhD. If this helped you see what's really going on, hit like, subscribe, share it. I'm Donald Taylor. I'll see you in the next one.